And we are live. Hello, my friends. My name is Evelyn Joy, and welcome back to my channel. So, not that long ago, maybe a couple weeks ago, I was at the library and they let me know that they are having this thing where adults, if they read 5 books of a decent length, they get a prize between now and February. And I was like, "Ooh, I've really been wanting to read The Hunger Games." Now, I haven't really read adult books since my first child, since I was pregnant with my first child. I've been reading a lot of kids' books, you know? But, okay, so I read the first Hunger Games book, and then I quickly did the audiobooks for the other ones, and after I had done the trilogy, I found out that there is a Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which is like the prequel. Very similar to how Star Wars has like the original trilogy, but then they're like origin story of Darth Vader. This is the origin story of Coriolanus Snow, who is the president, the evil president during the time that Katniss is having her books and movies, right? Okay, so this is an amazing villain origin story, and I feel like a lot of fictional villain origin stories are underdeveloped, but this author, Suzanne Collins, is super, super intelligent, very smart. And this is like this this book and movie is like the making of a dictator. How did this guy come to be the way that he is? And it's this debate of nature versus nurture, right? Was he a sociopath from birth, or did some of his nurturing definitely take an effect? And I think we're seeing a lot in the book, especially, and in the movie as well, that it is very much nurture for him. It's his experiences in life, it's his education, it's how he's been brought up and taught by his family members that really, really are making him who he is. I don't think it's a nature situation for him. I think it's nurture. But at the same time, we also see how other people in his same shoes, in his same circumstances, choose good and he chooses evil. And so it's really interesting. Also, we see connections. Okay, it comes full circle. So Suzanne Collins wrote the first 3 books and they made the movies before she wrote this prequel, right? So she's kind of like tying up all the loose ends and making this full circle come around. So I want to compare the book to the movie of the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I've been watching okay, so after I read the books and did the audiobooks, and then I've been watching on YouTube lots of people comparing the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, the book and the movie, and nobody has pointed this fact out, okay? That after you finish the book, you realize in retrospect the meaning of the title. And the same happens at the end of the movie. The end of the movie, you realize, wow. Why have I forgotten the name of the girl from the book? The girl, oh shoot, what's the girl's name? 1 second. Why did I forget her name? Rachel Zegler plays Lucy Gray. Lucy Gray. Duh. Lucy Gray. I knew that. Sorry. So Lucy Gray is the songbird. because she is always singing throughout the book and movie. And the snake is Coriolanus Snow. Now, we don't come to realize this until towards the end of the book. Coriolanus was not always evil, but he really became a serial killer by the end of the book and movie, really. So, let's talk about some of his kills. His first kill was when he was forced to go into the arena to get his friend out. Why are all of the names escaping me right now? So, his friend went into the arena, where people were killing each other, right? And so Coriolanus, as he was exiting the arena, he was attacked, and he viciously killed that person. He bludgeoned them. But the thing that's crazy is he continued to bludgeon that boy after he was already gone. So it was like he had a lot of bent up anger that he was letting out. Now, where is some of that anger coming from? He grew up privileged. Coriolanus Snow grew up privileged, and he also experienced a lot of loss as a child. So I think the combination of entitlement and poverty and the expectations placed upon him that he would someday be the president. His grandmam would say that. And then also these things that he was taught from infancy, from his grandmam, from his father, taught that people from the district are bloodthirsty, and that they are not the same as the people from the capital. That the people from the capital are not of the same, they're not the same. That the people from the district are bloodthirsty. The only reason they drink water is because it doesn't rain blood, is what his father would say, and his grandmam would repeat to him. So he had this thought in his mind that people from the district were other, right? And I think dictators and people who cause genocides and cause these kind of societies where certain groups are looked down upon, this happens. Oh my goodness, is it evil human nature that, like, in different countries, even in North Korea, where everybody's starving, there's a lot of parallels to North Korea with her writing. But in North Korea, they have a class system. Everybody's starving here, but there's the richer people and there's the poorer people, and this person and that person, and you can't marry people from that class, or you're lowering your class or whatever. You can only marry up, not down, right? All that. And it's North Korea, and everybody, in India, there's the class system. So anyway, treating others as other is a real big problem. Nazi Germany, they viewed, some of the Nazi soldiers viewed the Jewish people as cockroaches. When you view people as less than, as other, in American history, Native Americans and African Americans have been treated as less than, not having the ability to vote, not being treated as equals. Even nowadays, unborn children are not viewed as the same as children that have been born as far as value. So when you treat other human beings as other, as less than, then it's easier to be okay with killing them. It's easier to be okay with their deaths. It's somewhat a coping mechanism if you grow up in war, to not have to feel the empathy and the grief of all those people, because they're the enemy, right? They're other, they're less than, they don't matter, their lives don't matter, right? But the problem is when you grow up with this entitlement that Coriolanus Snow grew up with, of I am privileged, I am deserving of the best things, and they are other. we could visibly see in the movies how Coriolanus Snow and his classmates, they are sitting up in their school uniforms, pridefully sitting there, ready to get their scholarships and graduate and go on to university to become politicians and all these great things. And they're looking down their noses upon all these kids from the district, these kids from the districts that are being selected for the Hunger Games, right? They're like, oh, I have to interact with these low lives, right? The compassion and empathy were lacking amongst that group, with the exception of Coriolanus Snow's friend. Oh no. One second. The guy whose last name is Plinth. What's his first name? I forgot. I literally watched the movie yesterday. I literally just read the book. I'm really bad at keeping, there's so many names. I'm bad at keeping track of it. I should have had this pulled up already. Sorry. But there's a character. There we go. Sejanus Plinth. So Sejanus Plinth is a character that he was from District 2, but his dad got super rich during the war because he sold weaponry, right? So he got so rich that they moved to the capital to try to save his son from being selected for the Hunger Games, from his children being selected for the Hunger Games, trying to give his son a better future. But the son and the mother, they never felt at home or happy in the capital. So Sejanus and his mom, they still had the perspective of District 2, whereas their father had more of a capital perspective, right? So when Sejanus had to be a mentor for Marcus, who was his former classmate, he really struggled with that situation. Now, Marcus didn't want to have anything to do with him. In the book, his mom was always cooking and baking and making delicious foods and stuff, whereas Coriolanus Snow was close to starving. They were really struggling with food, right? So he was putting on this, Coriolanus Snow was putting on this facade that he was rich, whereas at home, yeah, they lived in a fine apartment, but it was the refrigerator's empty pretty much, with the exception of just a couple of things. Let's see. Let's talk about Tigress. Tigress is seemingly a minor character at the end of the last Hunger Games book of the trilogy, right? Tigress helps Katniss and her companions to hide in a like cellar room of her, you know, rundown fur shop that's like a back alley store. Now, Tigress is someone who used to be a really famous designer for the Hunger Games. And because of her cosmetic surgeries where she made herself to look like a tiger, she even purrs and growls, and she even only eats raw meat. She originally was Coriolanus Snow's cousin. So now Coriolanus Snow, his mother died in childbirth. His father was a general and died in war. They say the rebels killed him. We never fully know if that's true or not. That's what was told to him, right? That the rebels killed him and strung him up to a tree. We don't know if that's true or not, but we know he died in the war. And Coriolanus, so he was going to have a little sister. His mom died in childbirth. And Tigress, both of her parents died as well. I don't remember if she had siblings that passed away. I don't remember. So they're both raised basically by their grandmam, which is their grandma, right? So their grandma is a very prejudiced woman. She believes the capital is so much better than the districts, that the people of the districts are less than, and that they are nothing, basically. So anyway, the story goes on that Coriolanus Snow is assigned to a girl from District 12. And he is supposed to mentor this girl. Enter Lucy Gray. Lucy Gray is very, very different even from the people of the district. The people of the district are dressed in shades of gray. Everything is gray and dull and sad in the districts. And Lucy Gray is a singer. She's from a traveling group, a nomadic group, but she got stuck in District 12 when her parents and her siblings were killed by peacekeepers, right? And so she and her traveling group are now in District 12, and she is called for the reaping. It turns out it was a conspiracy against her by the mayor's daughter. Now, Lucy Gray, she had a really scummy boyfriend who was also messing around with the mayor's daughter. Now, the mayor's daughter wanted Lucy Gray out of the picture so that she would be the only girl in this guy's life. And so I feel like I'm not describing this very well, but anyway, Lucy Gray is this real colorful character, and the mayor's daughter sets her up to be selected for the Hunger Games to get her out of the picture. She sings a song. She puts a snake down the mayor's daughter's dress. The mayor's daughter survives that. We don't know if we're never told in the book or movie if the snake was poisonous or not. I mean, the snake was in her pocket, so I'm thinking it was not poisonous, but you never know. But she survives it just fine. And Lucy Gray goes on to impact the worldview of Coriolanus Snow. Now, Coriolanus Snow thinks that the people from the capital are the best and the people from the districts are scum of the earth, right? But along comes Lucy Gray to mess with his worldview and make him realize a more humane perspective of the people from the districts. Like, what? And then also his friend, let me look again, Sejanus Plinth, is also from the districts. And he's like doing this balancing act of like, he is living in poverty in a rich apartment, right? He has no extra money, but he's putting up a fake show for his classmates and his teachers, right? Not everybody falls for it, right? His dean is not falling for it. He says, "How the snow has fallen." Sound of snow falling. But Lucy Gray begins to alter the perspective of Coriolanus Snow. Coriolanus Snow wants to win. the scholarship. Uh, he wants Lucy Gray to win so that he can have all of the notoriety and all of the scholarships and recommendations and, badge of honor of his tribute won the Hunger Games, right? So he tries to go above and beyond, and he goes to the train station. This was Tigress's idea, his cousin who cares about him and takes care of him. He goes to the train station with a rose from his grandmam's rose garden she grew on the roof of their apartment building, right? She has a rose garden. And Coriolanus Snow goes to the train station to meet Lucy Gray. But right away we see that the Hunger Games is very different 65 years prior to the Hunger Games we're familiar with when they are on the fancy trains. They are in basically cattle cars, right? They are being treated as dirt, right? So he goes to meet her with a rose. She eats one of the petals and she tells him a story of, my mother used to bathe me in buttermilk and rose petals. And the reader or the watcher wonders, is she telling the truth or is this a girl that just makes stuff up? And both are likely. Either one is likely. But it's crazy to think of someone living in poverty using buttermilk and roses for a bath. Maybe the roses, but maybe not the milk. I don't know. But anyway, seems wasteful. But it's a lovely idea, right? So he gets into the car with them and quickly regrets it because he finds himself locked in this vehicle, this truck, with all of the people that are going to be killing each other later. And he is the only one from the capital. And then quickly they arrive at the zoo, and he is in a monkey cage with these district children, teenagers, that are going to be put in an arena to kill each other. And come to find out, nobody is feeding these teenagers. Not like the Hunger Games we're used to, right? Which is 65 years later and it's more developed, and they feed them lavish meals and stuff to get ready for the Hunger Games. Back then they were starving them. The Hunger Games was quite literally they were hungry when they were fighting. They were starving, right? So Coriolanus Snow ends up getting to know Lucy Gray a little bit. He actually opens up to her and shares things with her that he doesn't share with his classmates. Because she related to him, her parents were killed by peacekeepers. His parents were killed. His dad was killed by a rebel. So they kind of were both orphaned by this war. And so it's really interesting that they were orphaned by the war from opposite ends. And Suzanne Collins takes a very anti-war stance, and I am with her on that. I totally do not understand why war has ever been a thing. I think too highly of human nature that I like to think that people have a lot. I'm like Lucy Gray. I like to think that people are born with good in them and they have the opportunity to choose good, right? And Coriolanus Snow, he sometimes chooses good and he sometimes chooses evil. He goes on to kill. He kills the one guy in the arena. Later, he goes on to... So Lucy Gray wins the... Lucy Gray ends up winning the Hunger Games with some cheating from Coriolanus Snow. Coriolanus's cheating is discovered. He put his mother's powder compact. He put rat poisoning in it and gave it to Lucy Gray to use to poison her competitors. And he also took a handkerchief that had his father's initials on it, took the handkerchief that Lucy Gray had used. In the book, she had eaten out of it. In the movie, he like wiped her face with it or something, but it had her DNA on it. So he put it in the snake pit so that all of those genetically modified snakes would smell her scent and not bite her in the arena. So the snakes bit the other contestants, but not her. So Lucy Gray goes back to District 12, and Coriolanus Snow is banished from the capital to go be a peacekeeper, which is like a military police officer, right? In District 8, but he pays off the people and bribes them to send him to District 12. So he goes to District 12, where Lucy Gray is a singer, and he sees her and everything. Fast forward later on, he ends up in a scuffle shooting the mayor's daughter, kind of incidentally, kind of in a fit of rage, kind of did not plan it. It just happened, you know? And then there's this big ordeal. Everybody's trying, and also somebody else shoots the ex-boyfriend of Lucy Gray. So the weapons are taken away. They don't know to where. Some other characters take them off, right? Sejanus, I think, takes the weapons and goes and hides them. And everyone's trying to find these weapons to find out who killed the mayor's daughter, because the mayor's very upset about it. And Coriolanus Snow, so he killed a boy in the arena. He also killed the mayor's daughter. And then later on, he goes on to betray Sejanus Plinth. So Sejanus is plotting on helping out this prisoner girl. He's going to help her escape, and he too is going to escape from District 12, right? But Coriolanus Snow uses not the mocking jays, but the other one, the recording jays. What is it? Jabberjays. He uses the jabberjays to record Coriolanus Snow to record Sejanus Plinth speaking about his plan. He does not know, in the book, he does not think that his friend is going to be hung for this, but he is. He does end up hung. And so Coriolanus feels he has that blood on his hands. He feels he has to escape before the weapons are uncovered and he's discovered. He thinks he's for sure going to be hung as well. And so he escapes with Lucy Gray. Lucy Gray and Coriolanus Snow escape. They make a plan and they escape together. They meet at the hanging tree. And there's a whole song. There was a man that was hung, and he was the lover of the lady who was later imprisoned that they were trying to help escape, right? And Lucy Gray wrote a song that later becomes the song Katniss sings for the rebellion, right? It's the song The Hanging Tree, right? And it's this really bizarre song about a lover who has been hung, crying out to his lover to come meet him at the hanging tree, that they can be free together if she hangs herself, basically, by the end is what it is. And really bizarre song. And it becomes the theme song of the rebellion, right? And it's like this song, Meet Me at the Hanging Tree, right? Really interesting, really bizarre. And anyway, Coriolanus Snow, he's killed 3 people, but Lucy Gray only knows about the 2. And so they're walking through the forest, escaping together, and he mentions to her that he has killed 3 people. And she stops dead in her tracks. And she says, 3? I know about the boy in the arena. I know about the mayor's daughter. Who's the 3rd? And Coriolanus Snow tenses up. He's silent for a while. Then he says, my old self, so that I can leave with you, right? And she's not buying it, right? So I think at this point, she's starting to put 2 and 2 together that maybe he was the one that betrayed Sejanus and that Sejanus's blood is on his hands. But that would be crazy, man. That would be a major betrayal, right? Betraying a guy that was like his brother and making him be killed like that. Man, that would really take a snake, right? And then they arrive at a cabin. They take shelter because it's raining. And in the cabin, under the floorboards, they discover the murder weapons. And so come to find out, Coriolanus Snow could now be free if he can take these weapons and put them in the bottom of the lake. He could get away scot-free from killing the mayor's daughter, so he doesn't have to run away with Lucy Gray and try to live in the wilderness, which he came to discover within like an hour. That's way harder than he thought it would be. So he needs to tie up the last loose ends, and the last person that's alive that was a witness of the murder is Lucy Gray. Lucy Gray is putting two and two together in her brain the same time that Coriolanus Snow is putting 2 and 2 together in his brain. So they go from these 2 lovers running away together in the forest, gonna live a better life together and escape, to suddenly Lucy Gray's like, I'm gonna go dig up some Katniss roots for us. And he said, I thought you said it wasn't Katniss time yet. She's like, oh, a lot can change in a couple of weeks. So she goes out into the forest. And he's thinking, after a little while, he's left to his thoughts and his own devices. And he's going insane. He is losing his marbles. And he has convinced himself that Lucy Gray has probably gone back to report him. And he's probably going to be hung because of her. And so he has a me versus her mentality, right? So he goes out into the forest and he hears her singing. He goes searching for her, can't find her anywhere. He hears her singing The Hanging Tree. And he finds a scarf. In the movie, the scarf was his mother's and he gave it to her. In the book, it was her orange scarf. He finds the scarf and a snake bites him. So he believes this is a booby trap. He's saying that really set him off because he was already losing his mind. And when that snake bit him, he knew Lucy Gray and snakes get along. He should know he is a snake. And so he takes his gun, this rifle, and he starts shooting in all directions because he hears the song and he can't find her. And then the mockingjays are repeating the song. So he starts shooting up into the sky, starts shooting at the mockingjays, just empties his rifle of all of the ammunition because he's just going crazy. And he never finds Lucy Gray's body. In the movie, it really looks like he shot her. In the book, it's really a mystery, but in both, you can't find her, right? She disappears into the abyss. Where is she? She's gone. So Coriolanus Snow returns. The snake was not poisonous. He was fine from the snake bite. And we have no solid evidence that she even planted that snake there. It could have just been there happened to be a snake. They're in the forest. Come on, you know? And so he returns to the capital. He was going to return to District 2 to be trained in the military, but he's actually returns to the capital. And this really evil mad scientist professor of his uh, is really indoctrinating him and teaching him about. She's also the game maker, right? Of the games. And it turns out that Coriolanus Snow, his father, kind of invented the idea of the Hunger Games from plagiarizing from his best friend, who's the dean that hates Coriolanus, right? He plagiarized a drunken idea for the Hunger Games from his friend, and he took it and wrote both their names on it and turned it in. And his friend, who's now the dean, hates the idea of the Hunger Games, and he wished he was never credited to that idea, and wishes it would all just go away and they would stop doing the Hunger Games. But because Coriolanus Snow made the Hunger Games so popular, they continue on for 65 more years, right? So anyway, the making of a dictator, the making of an evil villain, very, very interesting. There's a lot of details I left out, but I would say the book is a lot better than the movie, because in the book you get the perspective of Coriolanus Snow. You get to hear his thoughts. You really get a full picture of how selfish and self-indulged and evil he is with the way he thinks about people. Because in the movie you're kind of more sympathetic of him. They've got this good-looking guy and he seems like he's compassionate and stuff. But what you don't know is all of his motives are selfish. Every time he helps someone, it's to help himself. Every time he does anything good, it's for his own good in the end goal, right? So really he's not a compassionate or empathetic person. He is a sociopath. But we also see in the story there are other people in his same shoes, other people who are orphaned by the war, other people who are privileged and make better choices. His cousin Tigress becomes a rebel eventually and fights for the rebel side, even though she grew up in the same circumstances as him. Sejanus Plinth was entitled and rich and living in the capital, but he still chose to have compassion and mercy and empathy for people from the districts, because he remembered his past, that he was from the district, that there's really no difference between the people from the capital and the people from the district, that all of it is imagined, right? Any difference between humans is invented in our own heads, right? um and we see Lucy Gray. Lucy Gray really says it. She says, I believe people are born with good in them, but it's really, really easy for people to turn to evil. And it's really our job in life to toe that line and not choose evil. Now, Lucy Gray, she had to kill some people in the arena, but she chose good versus evil. And Coriolanus Snow really did not have to kill the people that he killed, and he did. He killed them out of selfishness. He killed them for self-preservation, and he only ever cared about himself. At the end of the movie, he has another kill. He poisons some morphine, which is a medicine similar to morphine. And he poisons it and gives it to the dean, knowing that the dean would drink it, and he dies. And the president goes on in the future to poison anyone that was ever an enemy or against him in any way, shape, or form. And that's why he came to power, because he was so evil. He was basically a serial killer dictator, very similar to some of the leaders of North Korea and leaders of other countries. So it was really interesting seeing the movie after reading the book of The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and really seeing that villain origin story that The Making of a Dictator, really fascinating stuff. Kathy Kelly just arrived, jumping in late. I read this book a long time ago. Oh my goodness. So the crazy thing is, I wasn't a huge fan of Katniss in the first 3 books, because she's just a regular, ordinary girl that's, to be honest, she would rather not have a love interest, but she's forced into 2 love interests because of her situation, and she would rather never get married, never have kids, um, yet she's got this guy that she hunts with, that really helps her out, um, who's in love with her, and she's got the guy that really helps her out in the Hunger Games, and they risk their lives for each other, and they do end up falling in love later on, but Katniss has this inner struggle, and I can't really relate to her all that much, even though I read the books and watched the movies. I'm not a huge fan of war. I do not like war, but the movies and the books really take an anti-war stance, even though there's a lot of war in it. But I'm much more fascinated by the story of Coriolanus Snow and the making of a sociopath, the making of an evil villain, this nature versus nurture idea and concept, and how by his life choices, it was not just his circumstances that made him the way he is, but it was his own perspective and his own choices that led to who he became. Each turn, each murder, each thing he did, he had a choice of not to murder someone, right? Um, he had a choice, and he kept choosing evil. And it's interesting because we see other people in his same position making better choices than him. And we see that it's this nature versus nurture, but it's also personal choice. I think it was a lot of nurture for him, and not, I don't think any of it was he was born this way. I think all of it was circumstances, and then also um people were speaking into him. Oh, I'm so privileged. I'm so awesome. I'm so wonderful. I'm number one. Everybody else is less than. Their lives don't matter. My life matters. This perspective was really, really interesting. Anyway, I saw the movie recently to support the actress with Down syndrome, but it was such a hard movie to watch. I can't handle the violence. Yeah. I feel the same way. Like, I kind of, some of the Hunger Game movies that have war and stuff in them, I don't want to see them, but it's really interesting. It's just a fascinating, fascinating concept. But yeah, I definitely don't support murder or war or anything, but it's interesting how neither does the author. She is depicting these characters to kind of call out this happening in society for real. It's interesting, very interesting, fascinating. Anyway, but yeah, really, really enjoyed the book, and I saw the movie yesterday. It's also very interesting how, for example, in the first Hunger Games book, the book gave us much more of an opportunity of getting emotionally attached to Rue. And in the movie, where it's not nearly as tragic when Rue dies. In the book, I knew her death was coming. I didn't even want to continue reading because I felt like if I stop reading, she's not dead yet, right? Because I was like, oh my gosh, in the movie, they don't even explain that she viewed Rue as her little sister, just like her little sister that she wanted to protect, right? We don't even know that in the movie, that she viewed her just like her innocent little sister. It's really interesting. But yeah, in the books, you're able to see inside the character's head. In the movie, they can only show the external, the actions and the words. In the books, you can see the thoughts, right? It's really, really cool. And I thought that was really neat in the movie how they chose an actress with Down syndrome. They chose to make the dean an actor who's a little person. So I really love the diversity in choosing actors, because in the book it doesn't specifically say that the dean is a certain height. It doesn't even say that the professor is a certain ethnicity, but I love the diversity. It was really awesome choices as far as actors that they chose. But yeah, also very difficult watch, but fascinating at the same time. All right, well, that's all I've got to say. Thanks for watching. Bye.